All right, Scripps News Deputy Political Director Joe St. George joins us now live from Capitol Hill. And Joe, what's word from the White House in the wake of this tragedy?
Well, they've signed an emergency declaration order. FEMA is on the ground. They're sheltering north of 100 people on this Monday morning. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem has been on the ground now for several hours, several days, assessing what is going on. She's relaying information back to the President of the United States. I mean, bottom line, this story's just awful, right? It's gut-wrenching. These images, the camp, the children, the loss of life. It's just one of those that just pulls at the heartstrings. But there are questions this morning about, okay, can we learn from this to prevent the next great flooding catastrophe in this country? As Punchbowl News reported this morning, Senator Chuck Schumer has written a letter to the Trump administration asking if the National Weather Service cuts played any role. As has been reported, vacancies exist within the National Weather Service in Texas presently. However, we should also note that meteorologists in Texas, the union representing the National Weather Service, they indicated that the National Weather Service did its job, issuing watches and warnings for hours leading up to the river cresting in its critical stage. But the questions, the light finger pointing, begins regarding alert systems and warnings. In public policy, it's often known as the last mile, getting the information to the people who really need it. What happens when it's overnight, right? 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning when people are sleeping? What happens when it's a camp? You know, you don't prioritize television at camp, so your local news may not be as much of a service. Yes, all of our phones buzz with critical emergency alerts nowadays, but what happens if you're at a camp in which you didn't bring your cell phone because it's not allowed, right? I mean, these are all questions that are being asked. Can anything be done differently? As you go back in the record books, Kerr County, which my colleague Stephanie Liebergen was alluding to just a few moments ago, in 2016, officials there did ask about whether a siren, a warning, an alert system needed to be installed. They called the system antiquated, but oftentimes, as is the case in many rural communities, it comes down to money. It comes down to funding. And if you only have so much money, do you do something for something that may never happen, or do you fix the bridge that everybody uses every single day? Do you fix the potholes that are bothering the residents? Nothing really came of those conversations nearly 8 years ago now. At the state level, as the Texas Tribune reported over the weekend, you had state officials reject funding efforts to revise the flood alert system in Texas in recent months. At the national level, yes, they'll be looking at the National Weather Service, but there will also be questions regarding what about FEMA going forward? I think this is a very critical emergency response for FEMA because the Trump administration has talked about phasing out FEMA after this coming hurricane season. I mean, what we're seeing in Texas, this may be the worst natural disaster of the year, and FEMA is on the ground responding, sheltering north of 100 people. How do they respond to this awful tragedy, I think, could dictate the funding for FEMA going forward. Again, as we said, President Trump has declared a natural disaster emergency declaration. The funding, FEMA, is flowing to Central Texas. He was also asked about the cuts to the National Weather Service. Take a listen.
Do you think that the federal government needs to hire back any of the meteorologists who were fired in the last few months?
I wouldn't know that. I really wouldn't. I would think not. This was a thing that happened in seconds. Nobody expected it. Nobody saw it. Very talented people are there, and they didn't see it. It's, I guess they said, once in 100 years. They've never seen anything like this. So I wouldn't, I mean, people are trying to blame the school. They're trying to blame the camp. They're trying to blame. It's just a horrible thing. But no, I wouldn't say that, no.
Now, I think a lot of the country is still learning a little bit more about Camp Mystic, which is really the epicenter of the tragedy here. But Camp Mystic is well known in the American political system. Laura Bush, the former First Lady, was a counselor there. You had the Johnson family, former President Lyndon Johnson, his children, grandchildren went there for years. Members of Congress had children in the area of that camp. It's again a well-known camp in the political establishment. Congressman Buddy Carter posted this statement: "As you may have heard, my granddaughters were at the summer camp in Texas that flooded. They are safe, and I thank you for your well wishes. Please join me in prayers for Texas. We must ensure that they have the resources they need to find those still missing and save lives." But I think even if this wasn't a politically connected camp, there would be questions asked about how can a tragedy like this be prevented again. Holly, again, just gut-wrenching images that are on the side of the television screen next to me as we report this morning.
Well, we hope never to see again. Scripps News Deputy Political Director Joe St. George for us in Washington. Thank you, Joe.